Welcome back to the lineup here on Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection. Eli Hershkovich alongside Tom Bostwick in studio. We just had ESPN Chicago's very own Scott Powers on with us talking Blackhawks and USA Hockey. Good guest. But now we're talking some NBA, switching over topics. And Tom's favorite basketball team, the Philadelphia 76ers, just traded one of their very own to the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah, I got the Eli mentioned. I got the alert while we were talking with Scott. So Evan Turner and Lavoy Allen have been dealt to the Pacers for Danny Granger. Eli was kind of questioning the logic of bringing in Granger to the Sixers, but it's an expiring contract. They're just freeing up money, and Evan Turner has played really well this year. We were talking during the break. He's averaging 17, 6, and 4, which for a small forward and former number 2 overall pick in his, I think it's his 3rd or 4th year now, is not the best. But in terms of how Turner's looked in the past, he's looked very, very good this year, and he's going to fit in perfectly with this Pacers team.
You know, when I just said that, Evan Turner for Danny Granger and Evan Turner heading to the Indiana Pacers, my jaw just dropped because I just realized who Evan Turner was actually going to.
Yeah.
The Indiana Pacers have a legitimate chance now to win an NBA title, even if they didn't have one before.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they were the contenders before. And now think, because Turner actually has a history with the Heat in the playoffs. He guarded LeBron his 3 years ago.
I remember that when Drew Holiday had a big shot and the 76ers won one game.
Yeah, right. They won, I think, game 2 or they won game 3 on the home court. But Turner actually did a decent job on LeBron. It was sort of a growing up moment for Turner because I think it was either his rookie year or his second year.
Rookie year, I think.
Okay, yeah. So it was a growing up moment. He D'd up Wade, he D'd up LeBron. So he's got some experience against this Heat team. And you're thinking all the Pacers are doing are thinking about the Heat. And Turner fits in perfectly for them.
Not only that, they now have 2 growing young stars in Paul George. Not only just 2, Roy Hibbert, Paul George, Roy Hibbert, and Evan Turner. That's one of the best young nucleuses, maybe the best young nucleuses in the NBA for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, the Pacers can continue Turner's development and keep him on the path he's been this year. He's going to have to adjust that he's not the man anymore because he was the man in Philly this season for a pretty bad Sixers team. But
I think he's okay with that, with the chance to win a title.
Oh, absolutely, especially after the team he's been playing on this year.
The one player that, again, we're going to transition to Philly's perspective here in just a second, but the one player that I don't know if can transition is Lance Stevenson because he had a chance to be an all-star, and we watch him on the court, and he has his temper tantrums with the referees and with other players we saw with the Bulls.
Right.
And now he's going to have to go to the bench, it appears, or unless Turner comes off the bench.
I'm thinking Turner's coming off the bench because this Pacers team, other than Stevenson, the bench units they put out there, they basically put out four guys out there who can't score, and then Stevenson. So I'm thinking Stevenson will stay in his role, but they'll have Turner as that offensive spark for the bench units, and late in the game if they need some more defensive help. You could potentially go a Stevenson, Turner, George lineup late in the games too, because Turner has some experience bringing the ball up.
I'm just shocked. Like I personally cannot believe that Evan Turner is going up, and you think about it from the Bulls' perspective as well. You think about what the Bulls are going to have to go up against for the next 3, 4, 5 years, because you see what the Indiana Pacers have done with their young superstars and Roy Hibbert and Paul George. They not only keep them for their rookie contracts, they lock them up.
Right. Well, on that point, they've locked up George and Hibbert, as you mentioned. But I think Stevenson's deal might be up after this year as well, and there's talk with this move of letting him go.
I think that would make sense. And then you move Evan Turner into the 2 guard. So the Indiana Pacers have done themselves a heck of a deal, because I think Turner's contract has a couple more years on it.
It actually I think it might be up after this year, or it has one more year after this, one of those two. But so he's not locked up long term either.
Either way, you think if Evan Turner wins a title, he's going to want to stay with the Indiana Pacers. So it's a terrific move for that organization.
Oh, absolutely. It was a smart move for the Pacers because everyone knew the Sixers were sellers at the deadline, and they had already dealt Hawes, and there was talks of Turner and Thaddeus Young being on the move, and for the Pacers to pull the trigger, kudos to them.
Now let's go to Philadelphia's perspective. You trade Drew Holiday during the draft. You trade Evan Turner during the trade deadline. Tom, you're a Philadelphia 76ers fan. I'm putting you on the clock and on the spot. If you're the GM, why?
We mentioned, obviously we talked a lot about this last year, the failed move for Andrew Bynum, obviously getting rid of Iguodala.
Completely failed.
Yeah, so Doug Collins is gone. Rod Thorne, the GM who made that move, is gone. You bring in Sam Hinkie, who's a big analytics guy from the Rockets, who obviously made the moves for Harden and Howard. So what he did was say, listen, I'm going to come in, I'm going to clean house. We're going to stink for this year and probably next year, but we're going to get a lot of good young players. We're going to stockpile money. We're going to stockpile draft picks. And it started out great. Obviously, the trade, they landed Michael Carter-Williams, who has a great chance to be Rookie of the Year. There's a building block. They got who was thought going to be the number 1 pick, but obviously injuries derailed him, and Nerlens Noel. He's probably not going to play this year, but he could be a building block. They're going to have a high pick and a stack draft this year, and they have tons of money. So I think the Sixers are in a great position. And, Danny Granger is essentially going to look at this as a tryout for other teams the rest of the season.
Also, a funny note that we saw from Scott Phillips, who's going to come in studio with us, NBC Sports Talk writer, college basketball talk writer for NBCSports.com. He's going to talk college basketball with us live in studio 4 to 5. And also Dave Sims, Mariners play guy at 3:20 in just 10 minutes. We're going to talk with him. But again, talking about the Philadelphia 76ers, I don't know for how many years this spans over, but the 76ers now have 9 second-round draft picks. I mean, that just, again, makes your mouth drop. So this is 2 times during this 10-minute span that my mouth has dropped.
Yeah, that's an insane amount. You'd love if those were first-round draft picks, but it shows they could be used as trading pieces in the future, too. If the Sixers find themselves, if some of those 9 aren't until like 3-4 years down the road, and the Sixers find themselves at a trade deadline position 2 years from now, well, there's some picks that they can deal. So they are in a very good position right now, not only in terms of young players, draft picks, and money. So, I mean, you're right. 9 second-round draft picks is a staggering amount.
And again, just going back to the Indiana Pacers here, they have an opportunity. This just stuns me because they have an opportunity to not only contend for a championship this season, but contend for the next 5-10 years. I mean, this group right here, obviously we don't know what's going to happen. They can have injury problems. But this group right here, I mean, I think you agree with this. I think a lot of people do agree with this. Paul George is the foreseeable superstar. He got his contract. Roy Hibbert has struggled in the past, but he had a big-time Eastern Conference Finals against the Miami Heat last season. This core right here, Evan Turner has struggled, but he had a big-time first half of the season this season. Could have been an all-star, but obviously there's a lot of better guards / forwards, swingmen in the Eastern Conference. This core right here can be the best dominant group, a big 3 combination in the Eastern Conference for the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, obviously, with basketball and free agents, nothing's permanent. I mean, you'll see that with the Heat. They could break up, this summer, the summer after that, or whenever. So you got to get a championship when you can, and I think that's what the Pacers are doing. And you mentioned if these 3 guys, or if Stevenson is the guy, if this combination of players stays together, they will definitely be contenders for the next 4 to 5 years, definitely, and beyond that, maybe even.
I think this is the way you want to build a team. You talk about the Miami Heat building a big 3 through obviously going through free agency and maybe even the Olympics. We talk about it with LeBron and Wade and Bosh going over there and having the conspiracy talks, which obviously Bulls fans like to talk about. But you talk about trades and drafts. That's what the Indiana Pacers have done, and this is what teams need to model over. Obviously, and you talk about Larry Bird, too, having a role in this. Larry Bird being an absolute genius right now, in my opinion, a former NBA player. If I'm a staff right now, if I'm an organization, I go hire a bunch of former NBA players, a bunch of NBA greats. I go hire Magic Johnson off the Dodgers group and bring him over to an NBA team, the Lakers, for example.
I wouldn't go that far because you saw the train wreck that was Jason.
I'm joking, obviously.
Yeah, that was Jason Kidd, obviously. But no, I mean, I think Larry Bird, you're right, has been a magician for the Pacers because he has worked some magic on this team. This is a team after the Malice in the Palace that was really sort of in no man's land for many years, stuck with players, stuck with Granger as their superstar, kind of seventh seed, AC.
Jermaine O'Neal, Jamal Tinsley, that kind of core.
Yeah, and not contending for titles and not really going. But here they struck gold with Paul George. They struck gold with Roy Hibbert. They even they struck gold with Lance Stevenson the way he's played. They built through the draft and they really haven't had to sign any big names. Obviously, they brought in George Hill. From the Spurs, that was a big move.
Luis Scola, they brought him into, and again, a solid move. You bring in these solid pieces, and you look at what the Miami Heat have done. They've had to bring over these cheaper pieces, such as a Shane Battier, and it worked for 2 NBA championships. And we haven't seen a title from the Pacers yet. But this is the group you want to see on the court: a couple trades and a couple big-time draft picks that have developed into terrific NBA talents, and then good pickups in the offseason. Obviously not great pickups, but more solid guys than a minimum salary pickups.
No, absolutely. Like you mentioned, Luis Scola, that's a guy, he's had a very successful NBA career, a very solid player. I think you take him any time over Joel Anthony or these other veteran minimums that the Heats have to sign because that's all the money they have. So the Pacers being able to do it through trades and through draft picks has been able to save them more money to build up a better bench. And so it'll be interesting to see if teams try to follow the Heat model or the Pacers model going forward.
It will be interesting. Let's take a break here and let's talk about the rooftop model that Tom Ricketts has decided he wants to be done right now. We're going to talk about that next.